What was the most satisfying time where you caught someone lying? I travel for work. I 90% of the time park in economy at the airport. I think $14 per day, about a 10 to 15 minutes walk. A few times out of necessity to catch a flight I park in the garage. I think $24 per day, 5 minutes walk. Usually 2 to 3 day trips, not a huge expense. My boss suggests I park in off-site shuttle parking, about $11 a day, but a pain in the ass as you need a bunch more time to plan for the shuttle. He said he does it because it is cheaper for the company, which he owns. One day while walking through the garage from on-site economy, they're in the reserved parking. Closest and like $40 per day is my boss's truck, and reserve takes planning. He wasn't just running late and needed to park in the garage to make a flight. I just put my business card under his wiper. I never brought it up, and I haven't heard any complaints about parking on my expense reports since. Oh boy. So in college I had this friend who was a very good pole vaulter. Seriously, one of the top in the state for his division. This was back in 2008. He tells all of his family and friends, and even his boss, that he was recruited to compete in the Beijing Olympics. Well, his close friends, including myself, already call bullshit, but when the day comes he is nowhere to be found. In fact, we didn't see him for a couple of days, and he started texting pics from Beijing. So we were doubting ourselves a bit. Then we were driving along the freeway, and guess who's broken down on the side of the road like 2 days after he left? Mr. Olympian. When we pulled over, the look on his face was priceless. He stood by his story too, and said because of the time difference he already went and came back. Haha, he's a fucking idiot. I still don't know what he had to gain from such an elaborate bullshit story. I work in the customer framing department at a craft store, and there's this one woman who always talks down to all the employees. Her husband is rich and she shouldn't be kept waiting, blah blah blah. She was waiting for like 5 minutes because I was helping another customer, and she just keeps trying to get ridiculous discounts. This glass has a scratch on it. Oh, sorry, I'll just replace it real quick. Nope. She wants to be upgraded to museum glass. A $90 difference because I made her wait a few minutes to fix a scratch that only she could see. I'm pretty sure she got off on being a bitch, because if I can't understand why she would come back several times for different pieces if I was really such a terrible worker. Anyway, she came in one day with a painting she wants reframed, and then emphasizes that it was her grandmother who painted it and it has such sentimental value. Also, her grandmother was a professional painter, so it's probably worth like so much money. It's a generic painting of flowers in a vase, and I'm like 80% sure at that point it's not really that old. She's just playing it up so when she gets the art back she can point out a flaw in it that we caused, and she can demand we give her the whole frame for free. So I'm taking the canvas out of the old frame and she's reminding me that it's super valuable. I take off the dust cover on the back and lo and behold there's a sticker already there. Clearance, $19.99. I wish I had a photo of her face when she saw that. I work at a daycare. If a child is sick they will be sent home cause we don't want to risk infecting the whole class. Generally happens anyway. A lot parents don't agree with this policy, which leads to parents arguing with us that their kid isn't sick when they obviously are. My favorite time this happened was when a mother dropped her little boy off in an eye patch, yet the toddler was wearing a damn eye patch. I ask what happened and she says he hit his eye or something, which I didn't really believe. She says whatever I do don't take off his eye patch. I pick him up and immediately lift up his eye patch. Pink eye. She was so pissed at me for doing that, and she was shocked I did it. The look on her face was so satisfying, although I got yelled at by my supervisor for it. I used to work at a grocery store. One of my co-workers was constantly calling in sick, claiming she had one illness or another. Management couldn't just con her for it as it was a union shop, so she had protection unless she could be caught in a bald-faced and indefensible lie. One Friday I get called in to cover her shift because she called in claiming she was very sick and needed a kidney transplant. On her next shift on Monday she's wandering around with gauze wrapped around her stomach and back, claiming that she had that kidney transplant on the weekend. That she had been so sick that they rushed her into surgery and put her at the top of the transplant list. When she does it to me I stop her and say, isn't the recovery time on a transplant at least a month or two? The hospital shouldn't have let you out. Realizing I've caught her in a lie, she rushes to the front desk, claims she shouldn't be here and that she needs to go home or she'll pop her surgery stitches. A few days later she was fired when she couldn't provide proof of the surgery. She tried to sue but no lawyer would take her case. It was hilarious. I'm a librarian and I'm actually very proud of this one. Back then I was in charge of the cinema and music section of my library. This guy came with his son and asked me where to find our Puff Daddy CDs. We have one and I show him on the shelves where to find it. Then I was called in another place of the library and go check on my colleagues. On my way back to the music section, I see him coming out of the library and I don't know why. Maybe he seemed dodgy, but I have a feeling something is wrong. I go check, the CD is gone. It's not appearing on his library card, so he didn't borrow it. I have a look if he didn't misplace it but it's not there. The guy just stole the fucking Puff Daddy CD, with his 8-year-old son, from a public library, where you can borrow IT for free. At this point I do nothing because we have no proof, and no security camera. A few weeks later, the son and his sister, 8 and 10 years old, come to the library again and borrow some CD. I'm watching them and to my knowledge, they didn't steal anything. And I don't want to confront them because it would break my heart to have them stopping to come to the library because of their father bullshit. But this whole story still bother me. So a few months later, I decide to try something. I still had the stolen CD barcode and I just decided to add it to their library card, as if they borrowed it. Worst case scenario, they say they don't have it and I apologize and say that it's a mistake from the library. A few days later they arrive, take some documents, return some, and just before leaving I proceed to explain them that they still have a document, a Puff Daddy CD that they need to return. The look of panic in their eyes and incomprehension was just delightful. They didn't say anything and a few days later they came back with the CD. I don't really care about Puff Daddy, and we could easily have replaced it, but just for the principle, it was one of my greatest victories. I helped an older woman who mistakenly rented a room in her house to the most evil family I've ever met. She offered the 2 rooms and private bathroom to the family of 4 because the house they were renting caught fire and they were forced out into a hotel. She just wanted to help. Took them dinners out to the hotel and all the insane things you'd imagine the nicest person in the world to do. So they stabbed her in the back, never paid rent, abused the hell out of her laundry machine and ate her food. So I went over one day and could hear the toilet running from the hallway. They didn't give a shit about wasting water. So I grabbed a recorder and knocked on the door asking if I could come in and check on the running toilet. The mother just banged on the door back at me so loud it sounded like she was going to break the door. Then shouted at me through the door about how she was going to bury the old woman in the backyard. She eventually let me in. I fixed the toilet and moved on to other projects around the house. Figured that was over with. Nope. About 15 minutes later I see a cop car in the driveway. Okay, this is bullshit, but I guess I should go talk to them. Cop sees me coming and as soon as I was within earshot he starts lecturing me about how illegal it is to harass tenants. I stopped him and said, "You're yelling at me without even asking for my side of the story. Would you like to hear what actually happened?" So I played the recording. He spun around and unleashed hell fury on this woman for lying to him. All while I stood there smiling at her from over his shoulder. I'll never forget that feeling of actual justice in the middle of a 8-month-long nightmare. One of my staff, who is unfortunately family with the owner so he's not getting canned anytime soon, is the biggest liar I have ever met. We'll call him Jim. He lies about everything, regardless of importance. He's been caught in lies multiple times and really just doesn't care. If someone is sick, guaranteed he will be off the next day having caught whatever someone had. My whole department is female. 5 females, except for him. One day almost all of us were suffering from some horrible period cramps. Everyone was complaining about the pain but no one said it was because of their period, because it's usually pretty obvious why. The HR department has a wonderful supply of meds and so I had to empty their stock of Midol and heat pads. Some of the staff was teasing that they will bring chocolate as a peace offering before entering our department. The next day he emails in that he's sick and he caught the horrible stomach bug all the ladies in the department had. He's so sore he can't move, has a migraine, blah blah. Word spread quickly and Jim has forever been mocked as the dude who had to take time off work for his period. He won't be let go, but he does get his pay docked when he flakes off like this. It was worth it to be able to make fun of him forever. When I moved out of a house I had been renting years ago, the landlady decided that she wanted to keep my security deposit. We had been on friendly terms for the 5+ years I had lived there. She even invited me to dinner parties at her house. I had been a model tenant, so I don't know why she turned on me aside from pure greed. When I persisted in asking her for the money, she started making up reasons to keep it, claiming that she had to do costly cleanup of some mess I allegedly left. By luck, before things went sour, I had arranged to store some furniture at the property until I was ready for it. When I went to retrieve it, it was obvious that the property was exactly as I had left it, and the details of what she had claimed were entirely false. She had no answer when I confronted her with this fact, and she finally grudgingly paid up. I still see her around and she tries to act like nothing ever happened, but she is dead to me. How someone can let a little money trump all reason and integrity is beyond me.